So, this is my second talk of the day. It's fantastic to be here. I'm here to talk about thinking globally and acting locally, which in the context of what I do means local SEO and some other things as well. And I guess to start with, I just want to come up with a sort of an idea to start and underpin everything, which is everything in the world that happens has to happen somewhere. From Trump being elected in the US, that happened somewhere, to me today giving a lecture, everything happens somewhere. And actually what we see across all of the different services around the world is that location is one of the most commonly used modifiers, regardless of what the service or the product or the intent of the search is. So actually, you guys might not be thinking about location, but ultimately your customers are. So yeah, keep that in mind throughout, and it's important. So a little bit about me. My name is Ric Rodriguez. I'm an SEO consultant at Yext. Yext are an NYSE-listed technology company that take unstructured business information, structure it in a way that's useful, and then do intelligent things with it. And some of the things we'll talk about in this presentation are things that you can do with our platform as well. Prior to that, I was agency side. I've been agency side pretty much my whole career, working at network agencies like Dentsu Agency Prospect, all the way to SMEs like 3 Whiskey. I've worked with clients like Regis, who have 3,500 locations in 110 different markets, all the way through to brands like L'Oreal and Accor hotels. So I've been in SEO for quite a long time, and local has been a really key part of that. So before we get started in sort of the tactical side of things, and hands up who saw Chris Simmons earlier this morning or earlier today. He's a good guy. He's talking about some good stuff. So hopefully this isn't going to sort of repeat some of the stuff he's come across. I saw him present this morning, and we complement each other very nicely. But if you've already seen it, I'm sorry. If you haven't, this is good stuff. At least we both agree on it. Very rarely happens in SEO. But ultimately, people have better access to information than ever before. When you think about the role of search engines, 20 years ago, it was all about discovery. People didn't know what was out there. And because there were so few websites out there, actually, people could go straight to the information they needed. Then more websites came into being, and the role of search engines became about prioritization. Because as more websites came into being, we needed a quick way to find out what the right answers to things were versus the wrong answer. And we didn't want to do that ourselves because we became increasingly lazy. This is where actually Google, as a platform, did amazing work and really became the market leader. Because prior to this date, everyone was really using keywords to work out what was relevant for people. And Google turned around and went, well, actually, keywords are a bit rubbish. You can type the same word on the page 1,000 times, and we're going to think you're the best, even if you're talking about something completely different. And they introduced what we call PageRank, which is a third-party links-based algorithm, which means all the people that talk about you, if they talk about you in a good way, means good things for you, and if not, then not. Really simple system. It's been manipulated by SEOs over and over and over again. They've made it really more complex now, but intrinsically, that's what it's all about, prioritization. Now, though, because we've had loads and loads of new devices, I mean, hands up who owns a smart speaker? Well, I do. I own about 12. Outside of even voice technology, etc., people are wanting to get the answers. So you ask a search engine a question, you now no longer get a list of blue links, you get a direct answer back. Now, this is really important within local, because actually in local SEO, we've been used to this direct answer, direct information in the search results for quite some time. Google's own location system, Google My Business, has constantly and for a very long time been powering the information that people see in the search results. And actually, people have been looking at that instead of going to websites. So it's almost like the industry is catching up with us. And to the point around humans being lazy, humans, I think, I think a goldfish has an attention span of around 7 to 8 seconds. Humans now have an attention span of 3 to 5. And it's not because we don't care, it's that we've got so much information that we just don't want to have to prioritize it ourselves. Hence the answers. And this has had a major impact on the world of search marketing. It's fundamentally changed what we do. Hands up who does paid advertising for their work. Cool. So if you do paid advertising, and it's great and it's lovely, we love paid advertising, it's all trackable, and if you put money in here, you can see where it goes there. But actually, it's only 4.5% of the opportunity on average. So if you're bidding on things, you're actually really only going to get 4.5% of the total clicks that are available in a single search result. SEO, or organic results, that's the other 45.5%, which is cool, but actually it's a bit weird because this doesn't equal 50%. The question is, where does it go? Well, the answer is nowhere. 50% of users that look for information online and go to click somewhere else on a web result don't actually click on anything else. They get the information they want directly in search results, and that's it. They may search again, or they've had their information. And this is data by Spark Toro, Rand Fishkin, who founded Moz, data that he worked with to get It's recent as of Q2 2019, I believe. So this is really, really kind of the current situation. This has been driven by the rise in different formats. So start of the decade, everyone used desktop to find information. Then smartphones became really, really good, and you could do some really interesting things on them. And so everyone started to use smartphones more and more and more. And actually, we're at the point now where more people go and look for things on mobile than they do on desktop. I draw your attention to the bottom line here as well. This is 2017. This is the speaker market. This is being driven through intelligent services like Alexa, like Google Home. And actually, let's double click on that for a moment. The speaker market right now has massively increased since it was launched in 2016. But if you look at where it's projected to go, it's going to go a long, long, long way from this. And this is going to be driven by people using it in their cars, in their houses, and combining it with other things that we use day to day. So this is great. This means as search marketers, there are going to be way more devices out there that you can't have multiple answers on. You only have one option and one shot to be the answer. And so you have to work out how you do it. A byproduct of all of this is that connecting with users at the point of intent, the point that they're really, really, really sort of engaged with you, is really, really difficult because search is more than your website. Someone looking for a charter a yacht in Monaco actually doesn't have to go to Google anymore. And in fact, doesn't have to go to your website and probably won't. Think of it this way. Your homepage of your website is now Google because people will search in Google, land on your page. They won't navigate internally to find information. They'll go back to Google, search again, and come back on again. So think of Google as your homepage. But actually, they don't just have to go to search results. They can find direct answers. They can go to websites. They can go to meta search platforms, some of the booking engines, places like TripAdvisor. They can ask their voice device, go to social, use mobile apps, chat, AR, VR, you name it. They've got so many different options. And for SEOs, for a long time, we were like, well, cool. We know how to optimize for this, but this is a whole different world. You think about a voice speaker. If you ask a question of a voice speaker and a voice speaker says, did I answer your question? If you say yes or you say no, you fundamentally change that result for every user ever again because it now learns a little bit more than it did before. And it's doing that for every single search. So ultimately, you're trying to optimize for this constantly moving target, which is really hard to do. So one thing we do know is that there is this knowledge base of information and some level of machine learning that sits on top of it all. And if you can impact the knowledge base, it doesn't matter where you sit in the search results because actually the types of people you can connect with that are looking for you, you've already got the information they want. You're already guaranteed to be a good answer. So this is one side of it. And then the final bit of context that I think is really, really useful to be aware of is that your customers are being retrained to ask more complicated questions as well. As humans, we're really malleable, right? You get us doing combination of processes over and over again. You get it to happen across all of these different places, and we're going to start learning how to do it. So some great stats for you, like 5.6 billion searches happening on a day, every day, which is a huge number. 46% of them are local, and I don't mean that someone is searching for a service plus a location. No, Google's smarter than that. Mortgages is a great example. If you search for mortgages, you'll see information on the local places you can go and get a mortgage from, even though you've not asked for it. That's because search engines know that 3 or 4 steps later, you're invariably going to go into a bank, or you're going to go into a building site or a brokerage. And so it's going to give you that information, which is 3 or 4 steps away early, in case you suddenly realize that's what you want. So that's probably taking some of this information, some of that share here. And the great stat that I like, the one I find the most interesting, is that 15% of searches that happen on a daily basis are completely new. Like no one has seen them before, not even Google. So if you think about it, that's like 800 million searches a day globally that Google has never seen before. And so it has to know how to respond to it. So here's an example of a complex query that might never, ever have been seen before. Charter a yacht from Monaco for 3 days, skipper included, 12 people open now. Like, how the hell do you optimize for that on your website? Like, how do you do keyword research for that? You just can't do it. And search engines are not looking at the website that has that phrase on their site and go, cool, tick a box. They're breaking it down. They're trying to understand what makes it up. And they're looking for businesses that they can understand, that they're sure has that information. A bit like this. So actually, when you break this query down, what you're saying is that I'm looking for a boat charter company that's address or might have a premises in Monaco, that I've got a skipper included for 3 days and for 12 people. Well, they're all attributes and things that the business does. And open now is an opening hours. It's about location again. This is really important. This is if you take away one thing from here, this is probably the most important thing and applies outside of local across all of SEO and all of search. Is that search engines now think of things in terms of entities. This is the link back to Chris Simmons' slides. And it's not about keywords anymore. This is really important because this is how local SEO has worked for a long time. When you ask a question like, where's the best place to get Indian food or Italian food? Google isn't matching your query with that search result. It's understanding that there is a thing called Indian food and that restaurants serve it, and that when you look for it, it needs to return the right results with lots and lots of other factors, which we'll come into in a moment. But in terms of this, there's a football team in the UK called West Ham United. My family, they all support it. I'm a Watford fan. 2 London clubs in the same area is not always in the same house is not always a good sign, but we live and let live. But West Ham, as an entity, is an entity. And all an entity is a thing that can be described in terms of the attributes that make it up. So West Ham is a football club. In this case, the attributes are the season, the division, the nickname, and where they're located. And actually, each of these can then go down another level and another level and another level. This is how search engines are understanding things. You as a business are an entity. You have your own map of these things and relate to you. And search engines are using your website and your online presence to understand that. So when someone asks a question like, who are West Ham playing on Boxing Day this year? Search engines know exactly that they can go to West Ham and go all the way to that season this year and find who they're playing. Really easy, right? Of course it's not. It's never that easy. Because the problem is, if someone asks, what aircraft are in London? I flew from London a couple of days ago. I went through Heathrow. Search engines and answer engines now need to know not only how London connects to lots of different things, but actually how the things that London connects to other things as well. Sorry, this is getting really deep and technical, but I promise there's a point to this. So in this case, search engines will know that Gatwick and Heathrow are airports, and that they have operating airlines, British Airways, and that they have Airbus 321s. In other words, what we're saying is, if you think about it in terms of a graph where London is one axis and the Airbus 321 is the next axis, and we know that London and the Airbus are fixed points on that, where do all these different things sit and how do they relate to each other? This is ultimately the knowledge base that search engines are using to understand everything in the world and then return information back to users. This times a billion, trillion, lots and lots larger number. I don't know what the number is, but this is how they're working it out. It's the context of things in terms of the other things that are around it. And if you can understand this, you are in a really good place to build a better ecosystem for local SEO, because every single thing that someone is searching for is intrinsically an entity defined by the terms and the attributes that it's all about. So I want to move away from entities for a moment. This is great stuff, but actually it's conceptual. It's it's all the great thought leadership in the SEO industry right now. So how do you do local SEO? Well, hands up who thinks that local SEO is all about the closest locations to you. Cool. I'm really glad that I put the hands up, because it's not. Proximity or distance is a factor. If you're in Manchester, you're not going to be ranking in London. If you're in Zagreb, you're not going to be ranking in Split. Same principle everywhere across the world. But if you are in London and there are 20 businesses in London, the fact that you are the nearest does not guarantee that you will be the top result every time. Now, if you're miles away, clearly you won't be. But if you are in the vicinity of, it's not always the case that you'll be number one. Because Google actually takes, and search engines take into account things like relevance, what you do, and whether you are the right place for that person's query. Because you might be the closest, but if you don't do that thing that the person actually really wants, you're actually not that much use to them. And finally, prominence. Prominence is a great factor. Prominence is search engines trying to understand whether you actually are where you say you are, and that when someone comes to visit you, they can actually get into your location. And these two we'll come back to shortly. But before we get started, who likes making lots of free money? Yay, everyone loves it. Cool. So the stuff I'll talk about today, all of it's free. It's all out there. You don't have to sign up to some ridiculous contract or whatever. You can start today. And from my research of preparing for this lecture, no one in the industry is doing it. So it's an open playing field for anyone that wants to get started. So firstly, to be found online, you need to be where your customers look. And we'll talk a lot about Google because a lot of the world goes to Google. If you're looking to start up in China, they use Baidu out there and lots of other services, but majority of the world, Google's the place to go. And so when you search for something like, sorry, it's really small, where to charter a yacht in Saint-Tropez, Google will give you lots of different types of results. It'll give you ads. These are your pay-per-click. These are the ones you pay for. It will give you organic results. These are your websites and the websites of other businesses like you. But importantly, it gives you a local pack. And a local pack is made up of information provided by a service called Google My Business. Now, we'll come on to Google My Business in a moment, but it's a totally free service, and unless you're on it, you don't get into that map pack. So kind of what it says. There was one business on this slide, MSC Yachting. Anyone from MSC Yachting? Cool. Not a good thing or a bad thing, it's just a fact. If I want to call MSC Yachting as a business, this is where it gets really interesting because Google doesn't just give me a load of links, it actually gives me a direct answer, their telephone number. Because they're in Google My Business, because they've got their information online, Google knows that if I want to call them, I probably don't want to click through lots of links, I just want to call them, and so the information comes up. So you get the direct answer, you do get the links as well, but you also get this local card on the left-hand side with all of the key information. This is your website. This is your Google My Business profile. This is the information that's been inferred from these two. And actually, as a business, as a business that wants to get into local SEO, you can get into both. So, talks about Google My Business. Google My Business is a great, important word here. Free place to get started on local search. And it's honestly one of my favorite things that Google has ever put out because it helps small businesses start to compete with the big businesses and it helps big businesses get found online as well. And it's totally free. So if you want to ask a question like, where can I charter a yacht in London? It's Rodriguez Yacht Company, my own business. I don't have a business, I've made it up for this, but I'm going to make money. It's that information that comes out powered by Google My Business. And you can do loads of great stuff with this. You can put tons of information here. Your business name, your category, your opening hours, your telephone number, appointment URLs. So if you want to drive someone directly to book an appointment or to book a session to speak to someone about a holiday, you can do all of that. Logos, photos, descriptions, contextual information, you name it, you can get tons and tons and tons of information on there. And the great thing is all of that information, when you put it in there, can get surfaced online. Another great thing that Google My Business can do, because let's be honest, if we have a sales team, we want our sales team to be focusing on selling holidays or selling charters. We don't want them to be answering day-to-day questions like, when do you open next Tuesday? People can ask questions on Google My Business of your business. They can ask any question they like. And actually, as a business, you have an opportunity to respond to them. And if you can respond to them, that's what appears in the search results. So let's say someone says, do you do X type of charter? Actually, you don't want someone calling you up necessarily to find out information. You want them to know that you do and then call them to book a charter holiday or whatever it might be. So you can start answering these questions in search. So in this case, what is your USP? As a business, I can answer that. The thing is, this is great, but there's a catch, which is that anyone can answer this as well. So as the business, if you answer it, you'll be shown first because you're the business, you're the authoritative answer. But if you don't answer it, someone else can. And we have these things called local guides, these people who are fantastic people, give up a lot of their time to answer lots of questions out there. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. And you do see answers sometimes like, what's your USP? Answered by a local guide, don't know. I think the worst one I ever saw was, or the most controversial one I ever saw was, it was a healthcare industry business, and someone asked, do you do home visits? And the Google local guide, who has nothing to do with the business, turned around and went, no, but I do. It's a bit weird. I probably wouldn't want them coming to my house, but, you know. So yeah, great opportunity, but make sure it's you that's answering the questions. And actually, I know you guys are thinking, oh, Google My Business, it's all about our offices and where we have locations. Well, actually, kind of, but not quite. Because firstly, if you own boats as a business, why not put your boats on Google My Business? They are beacons of your business in the locations that you're at. If you have staff on the ground in some of these places, so your head office might be in London, but if you've got people in Saint-Tropez, in Monaco, in Croatia, in Spain, in Greece, actually on the ground, you can do this thing called service area businesses, which means that you don't have to have a fixed point of location. You can set up, I'm in the area and I have representatives on the ground and start to appear in Google. So you can list your services. And if you have crew as well, so you have skippers, etc., that you can hire out to people to run their boats, why not put them online as well? You can do all of this with all of this information. Now we're going to talk about paid ads for a moment. We all love paid. Paid's great. Actually, one thing you can do with Google My Business is make your paid advertising even better, right? So there's two types of ads that you can use, but if you can link your Google My Business profile to your ads, you can start doing some cool stuff, like location extensions. So location extensions are, you have your advert, and your advert's tailored perhaps, but it's not really that specific. Actually, if someone's searching for a location and your ad comes up, chances are they're going to scroll down and go to where they have location results. You can add location results to your main ads. Now, this is all done by Google. It will work out if someone is looking for you and you're relevant, and it will serve it, and it's charged in the same way as a normal click. So you won't pay any more for that than you will do for that, which is great. Because if someone calls you instead of goes to your website, you've then got that engagement. You haven't then got to worry about them finding your number. This is a really good thing to have. The other thing you can do is you can use what we call local search ads. And local search ads are a similar principle to, I don't know if you guys use if you've ever worked in the FMCG or retail industry, but we have a thing called shopping ads. So when you Google a product, there's ads that come up for those products. Similar principle in terms of how the bidding's done, different deployment. In this case, let's say you don't rank for this term, but you want to have some presence. You can say to Google, I have locations in the area, I think I'm relevant, and Google can start to show you. And again, it's traded on a cost per click, just like you use bid optimizations for different things. Same principle applies here. So this is two ways that you can make your Google My Business go further if you're using paid advertising as well, and link the two together. But if for organic, it's never that simple, is it, right? For organic, search engines really need to trust your information to be visible. So let's forget local SEO for 1 minute. How would you guys feel in this situation? Show of hands. You want to try the new Italian place for lunch, but you don't know where it is. So you go out to 2 groups of friends. The first group of friends, you ask, hey, where is it? And you get lots of answers like this. Don't know, near the station, King's Road, confusing look. Would you guys end up going to that location? No, of course not. But if the other group of friends turned around to you and went, every single one of them, 12 King's Road, 12 King's Road, would you go? Probably. That's the way that search engines look at the world. If you have lots and lots of information across tons of third-party sites that is different to your main information or different to each other, Google's going to go to it and go, I don't know what to believe. I don't know if I can trust this, and so won't show you. Whereas if it's a clear signal, your telephone number on all of them is the same, your address is the same, they'll go, great, I trust that. When I send my traffic to it, I know that when people go there, they're going to get the right experience. They're going to meet, a happy staff member who will sell them the lovely boats that they want to buy or want to rent time on. So that's great. And actually, Google goes out to lots of different places to do this. So if you think about where you can charter a yacht in London, in Google, I have this information, which might be my name, my address, my phone number. Google's then going to go to all of these other sites, Yelp, Foursquare, Apple Maps, Facebook, Bing. In fact, anywhere else on the web and try and corroborate the signals that I send out. If it feels like my information is the same and that it can trust it, it will want to show me. If it doesn't, it won't. And we talk a lot about Google, but actually Bing, Facebook, and all of these third-party sites, they all drive traffic as well. They're all out there and people use them. Foursquare you might not know much about, but Foursquare powers a lot of the information for services that you will know. So having your information accurate there is great because it powers a lot of other places. The bit where it gets complicated is you might have information in Google that then goes to Apple Maps to corroborate it. But Apple Maps is going to Facebook to corroborate that, and Bing's going to all of them to do that, and Yelp the same, and Foursquare the same, and the rest of the web too. And if it doesn't know the information, it will try and pull it from somewhere it can find it. And so actually, if you have a wrong piece of information, very quickly that becomes a problem, because if these don't have signals to go by, they'll then pick up what is the consensus. And so from your perspective, from as a marketer trying to get online, the best thing you can do is to have presence across all of these that you can control and keep it up to date. And actually, one thing that often gets forgotten about in local SEO is that your website is yet another place, another source of signals. Your website's like a super listing for all of your information and services. And you really need to pay attention to it, your location pages. Actually, you need to do 2 things. You need to structure your website correctly in terms of your on-site content and your overall architecture, so how your website is structured, put together. So think of it this way. Your website and your Google My Business information tell Google what you're all about. And then you've got the rest of the web and all of these other publishers that's going out to get validation on whether it's correct. In fact, this is the context side. This is the bit that tells them what you do. And this is the validation side. Now, it doesn't mean it's not going to find out new things from over here, but if you've got a clear signal between these two, and it's very often the case that people have different information on their website to their Google My Business, you'd think it'd be the same, but alas, it's not. If these two aren't the same, it sure as hell can't trust that whatever these things are going to say is the same. So it's a very easy one to get right. So here's a business that's doing this really, really well. It's a Primark. I don't know if you guys know Primark in the UK. I love Primark. One of my favorite places to go. Primark are doing this really, really well. So not only can you go to their website and see lots and lots of information on the website, whether that's their how to find us, the experiences within the store. So not just, we do these products, but actually tax-free shopping, parking, a Harry Potter shop, wheelchair access, and opening times. This is all user-facing, but also search engines can read it. We have this thing called structured data or schema markup, which sits, it's almost like a code that sits behind the code that tells search engines a bit more. So think of it this way. This is all great, but if a search engine comes to this page, they have to infer certain elements. They have to understand that this is an opening time, and on the whole, they're very good at it. But if they don't have to infer and you can tell them directly, this is our information, you save them a bit of processing power, and I'm sure they will thank you for it. This is what this side does. This is code that sits behind the page. Users don't see it, but it tells search engines, it tells answer engines, and importantly, voice search devices, etc., exactly what your key information is. So it's really, really important. And again, it's a system that's shared. Google, it's an open source system. Google and a few of the other publishers build it, and it's there specifically to help businesses and other websites structure their information correctly so they can use it. So that's how you get your information on your page right. But actually, you can do more with your site structure as well. So think about it. This is typically what a site might look like. You have the home page, and off the home page, you have different areas and locations, and that's one part of the site, and your different services down here. But typically what you find is then that this becomes a great part of the site to go to for service information, and this becomes a great part of the site to go to for areas and location information, and there's not that much crossover. Which in my language is, there's a massive missed opportunity there. Because actually, from a search engine's perspective, there's a whole load of inference going on here. If your services, if you as a business list your services here, and you separate that from your locations, perhaps you use internal links to connect the two, but it's not a clear signal, actually, there is an opportunity in the middle to create pages and create information that use the best of both. A bit like this. So you could have location plus service pages. Why? Because actually it's all about context, which is the point I've made when we sort of went into this section. Yes, these pages might collect some traffic, for sure. Probably not a lot, but the traffic it will collect will be super, super high intent, which means people that are about to buy, because they know where they want to go and they know what they want to buy. But also, it will give you information to search engines on what these locations have in terms of the services you offer, which is always really, really helpful. A great example of a business that's doing this is UPS in the States. So notary services are a thing that UPS offer. And you'll see this is the map pack. And actually, Google My Business listing and the map pin all point to their Tysons Corner, Greensboro Metro Shop page. So no specific information there. They do mention notary services, but it's not everything that you'd want. But underneath, they have a dedicated page for it. And actually, the whole reason they're appearing here is not necessarily because of this page and the mention. It's because this page, which is all about the services they offer, point back to the main page and give those contextual signals. And so from an opportunity perspective, these guys are doing really well and connecting with loads and loads of great, great opportunity for business just by having a page that talks about what they do in more clearer terms. And a key part of local search is around the experience your customers have. So hands up who loves reviews. Great, I love reviews too. They're like my favorite thing. There's so much business data you can get out of reviews that if you fix very minor things, suddenly your customers love you and buy a lot more from you. So a few facts for you. 86% of consumers read online reviews often. 57% will only use 4-star businesses and above. And there's been an 87% increase in the number of reviews from 2017 to 2018. And if you guys weren't aware, Google My Business has a review section where people can talk about your business as well. So you can manage this information pretty simply if you're not doing it, as part of your first-party systems. Another really, really good reason to care about Google reviews, when you search for the word best, it triggers a 4-star result and above. Now, this isn't some crazy algorithm ranking stuff. This is literally a filter that gets applied automatically that users can switch off, which they never do, telling the user that because they've searched for a good place to go or a best place to go or an excellent place to go, then they're probably going to want to see 4-star and above. So if you're not 4-star and above and someone is looking for best charter or best place to charter a yacht in Santorini, you're not going to be visible. So you need to manage your reviews. And actually, review data, the scores, is not used by search engines. They frequently, Google says, we do not look at review scores as a way to rank. We do not put the best scored location up at the top. Why? Because you can just spam it with bots. Very, very easy. The data signal is really messy. But what you can do is use it to learn a little bit more about the location itself. So let's say the reviews in the location talk about the amazing Wi-Fi it has, but the business hasn't put that into their data or into any of their pages or their systems. Well, because lots of people say it, Google can infer it's there, and perhaps this business starts appearing for Wi-Fi related searches, which it would never have been able to before. That works the opposite way, though. If people say you have terrible Wi-Fi and you've got Wi-Fi listed, perhaps they won't show you. So the point is not so much about the review score from a search engine perspective, although we know there are things in place to use it. It's more about what people are saying as a contextual signal. Now, a lot of people shy away from reviews because there is this kind of mindset that all reviews are bad. Well, they're not actually. Data that my company has put together shows that 78% of reviews are 4 or 5 star and above. So most people in the world are generally pretty positive about reviews. And actually, when you solicit reviews, people want to say good things about you. But what you do find is that people in the heat of the moment, when they've had a bad experience, and perhaps it's over something really pathetic or really petty, and if they read it back a week later, they go, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. They'll leave reviews because in the heat of the moment, that's how they feel. As a business, that's something that you guys can manage and take control over because, firstly, 89% of consumers read business reviews online and, read the responses. So if you have a 1-star review, we've all done it, a business might have a 5-star, but we'll still go in and have a read of which ones are the 1-star and see what happens. As a business, though, if you can see these 1-star reviews and address that concern, 2 things. One, if it's a review that's somewhat petty, you'll often find that the person, because they get a notification that someone's responded, will just remove it. And then the other side of it is people have a genuine concern about your business. This is a really good way to show that as a business you care and help people see that you actually want to fix problems, which is really good for your reputation online. So in terms of how to respond to reviews, typically we say respond to 50%. 50% is starting with the negative ones, but also remember to respond to a few positive ones because you want to say thank you to people as well. How to respond to reviews? Firstly, respond quickly. Don't wait 6 weeks because people see it as really false and really fake. So if you can get in with an hour, perfect. If you can get in with a day, 2 days, even better. Sometimes that's the way it has to go. But the sooner you get in, the better. Also, the longer that review stands out without having been responded to, the longer that's going to have a negative impact on your online reputation, which you can get to really quickly. The next thing, show you listen. This can be really simple. If someone talks about having a terrible service, this is as simple as having a value statement saying, "Hey, at so-and-so, sorry to hear what you've got. You've had a problem. At so-and-so, we strive to deliver great service, but sometimes we don't achieve this. Show you care." Because if you can talk back to what the person is asking about and not just paste the copy and paste standard of, "Thank you, please contact our department here," then people actually it shows not only the person you're talking to, but the wider world that as a business you're listening. That's a really positive thing. And actually, that in itself can turn a negative review into a positive experience. So show you listen. And finally, find a solution, right? Find an actual solution. This could be really simple. This could be, "Thank you so much. We're going to feed it back to our X team." That's the solution. We're going to feed it back. It hasn't cost you anything, hasn't charged you anything. And in fact, that team might want to know about it so they can fix it the next time. That might be all the person wants. At least then you've shown that you care and you're going to act on it. You don't have to offer 10% discounts every single time. And in fact, if you do, there'll be people that go, "I'm going to complain for the sake of it to get that 10% discount." You don't have to. Sometimes you might want to, but this is a great way to do it. Speaking of discounts, you can use social media. So moving away from reviews, you can use social media and to promote your USPs, upcoming offers and events as well. And actually, Google My Business and all of these platforms you go to are in a form social media outlets. A couple of reasons why you might want to do this. 76% of users that see a location listing online will visit the store on the same day. Okay, this is mobile users, but most of the people use mobile now, as we established. Of that 76%, does anyone know how many will actually go and buy on the same day? It's a smaller number, it's 28%, but it's still enough people to be wanting to take advantage of. And the great thing is, with social media, you can increase those numbers a little bit. Because if you can have your listing show at the point where someone's really ready to go and do something, and then hit those people with a really great one-time offer or information that shows you've got something really cool going on, they're even more enticed to come in and talk to you. And there's 2 ways, there's hundreds of ways, but there's 2 main ways you can do this. Way number 1, Google Posts. So Google Posts are something within Google My Business. They're a little bit like a social network. They appear for a short period of time in listings up to a week, and you can include videos, articles, offers, polls, and various other things. If you want to hit someone that is interested in your business straight away and get them into your store, this is a great way to engage them. That's great for engaging and driving people to your location. It's not so good for community side of things because actually they've got a short lifespan. Facebook is a great place to build community. And in Facebook, you can not only have your main page, your brand for your corporate communications and corporate messaging, you can also have individual location pages for every one of the locations you set up. This subpage has its own news feed. So you can use this news feed to show some great cool stuff happening. And it could just be the offers. It could be all the usual stuff that you put onto Google Posts. But it could also be pictures of your customers having a great time on the boats they've chartered. It could be lots and lots of great community building things that make people really want to engage with you. So this is a great way to help drive more people into your locations from what's already there. 10 minutes left. I promise I won't stick around for much longer, and you can ask some questions as well. Tracking is a really important one, because actually with tracking, when you do things like paid advertising, tracking is the thing that everyone really cares about. The problem is with offline to online or online to offline, it's really difficult. So a potential customer probably has this kind of journey. They might come to your website. They might start by making a search, or visit a third party, or visit your website directly. They might then go straight into your location. They might visit the website. They might call your business, and then they might go to a location and make a sale. This side of things, really easy to track, right? Because you can see impressions and things in search. And Google My Business gives you a lot of data on this. You can see visits to a third-party website that come to your site through your referral traffic in Google Analytics. And of course, you've got analytics to understand what's going on your own website. This bit is a little bit harder, because actually, unless you've got something like call tracking, you're probably not going to see that much detail. So Google My Business will give you the number of people that click the call button to come into your location, but a lot of the time it's not a lot of data there. And this stuff is really hard to find out, because what you can't do is someone lands on a Google My Business listing and then goes straight into your location. You can't follow that cookie all the way through, or you can't follow that user. And I wish I could stand here today and say, well, there's a great solution. This is how it's all done. The fact is there isn't, and there needs to be. As an industry, we need to work this one out. And you can use things like beacon technology and in-store app tracking in Google Analytics, Google Ads to start working out some of this. But in reality, it's just not really where it needs to be yet. So my key message here is there is demand out there. A lot of this stuff is free. So at the end of the day, it won't cost you to try it. But don't overcomplicate it. Measure what matters. If you know that you can track calls, you know you can track clicks to your website and appointments, correlate that with your uplift in sales offline. If you're doing nothing else, this is a great way to measure it, but measure the stuff that matters. If you want to drive calls, measure the calls. If you want to drive clicks, measure the clicks, and really go from there. In terms of the future, Google is constantly innovating, and their products are only getting better and better and better. So let's assume you've done all this great stuff and you are currently making tons and tons of free money out of Google My Business and all these local SEO channels. Where do you go next? Well, firstly, you can be found on loads of new publishers. So there are always tons of new publishers out there. Something like the mobile phone took the telephone took 27 years to get to 50 million users. Pokemon Go took 19 days. People are adopting new technology really, really quickly, and actually there are constantly new platforms coming up that might be relevant to you guys as an industry or just globally. So be aware of that. Engage. There's lots of new features around engagement. You can follow a business in Google My Business now, or in Google Search, and that will appear in your Discover feed if you guys have seen that. You can also message businesses direct using chatbots and that kind of thing. So lots of features to drive engagement. And actually where I think Google My Business is going, because there's already signs for this, is actually around transaction. Now, you can connect your Google My Business location with inventory in the Merchant Center. So if you're running shopping ads, which imagine a lot of you guys aren't because it's more of a retail thing, but right now if you are, you can say we have these number of products in these locations and start showing that as part of your ads. But it's only a short way away from the point where you can use the same technology to buy directly in Google My Business. So 3 things I would think about for the future. So look, there's a huge opportunity in local, particularly across the charter industry. No one's doing this yet, so like the sooner you guys get onto it, the sooner you're going to start reaping the rewards. In terms of taking your first step, first thing, get yourself online, get yourself in the right places. If you haven't got a Google My Business, start thinking about one and what else you can list. And also think about all the other places, Facebook, Foursquare, etc. Secondly, keep your information up to date. Make sure your name, address, phone number is all correct across all of these, and when it changes that you update it and you're on top of that. Thirdly, help answer engines learn about what you do with your content, with your attributes, with the information you put on your website, how you structure your website. And finally, respond to reviews to show your business cares. Because ultimately, if you don't show your business cares, it doesn't matter where you show, your customers won't want to come in anyway. Thank you very much, guys. I'm Ric Rodriguez. If you've got any questions, please do tweet me. I think we've got probably a few minutes for questions now. And look, if you want any of the stats, any of the data, any of the info, that's the link to download. You can download the whole presentation there. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Great question. So firstly, I would always say list in the language that you are native to. So if you have a location in Spain, list it in Spanish. If you have it in France, list it in French. Google's really good at translating stuff on its own. So if a Spanish user lands on a French site, it will translate whatever's in French into Spanish for them. And you don't actually have to worry about that. Where it becomes complicated is if you've got a French site, like a .fr, and you want to have a .fr appear in Spain or that kind of thing. It becomes a lot more complicated, or you've got a Spanish language site and a French language site, Italian language site. You need to then use what we call hreflang tagging. So it's a type of code that can sit either on your page or on your sitemaps. So sitemap is the place where search engines can see where all the pages of your site are. And you could say in that, using that tagging, this is our Spanish site for Spanish users. This is our French site for French users. In terms of connecting Google and all these places to other places, I would say connect them again to the main language that's relevant to. So you might be a Dutch business and you might want to connect everyone to your Dutch version of your site. But if you've got a French listing, connect it to the French version. Cool. Please. Absolutely. So local really is what you make of it. The thing is, if someone is searching for, even if there's not a specific local word in that, so let's say they're just looking for charter a yacht, Google will understand that there is an intent behind that and that they're either looking for right now in that moment where they are, and we'll show them results based on where they are, or if they've had history for the last 10 minutes looking at Greece, they'll continue to show them Greek locations. So as a business, local is two things. It's where your people are looking for information. So I might be in London, but if I'm looking for information for my holiday in Greece, then it's Greece, and it's that specific area of Greece I'm looking for. And local could even be Greece as a whole, where it knows that where I've got sort of larger, well-known businesses. Or it could be in London, I'm looking for people around me to go and book my holiday. Search engines will know what that is. And if not, you can always refine your search. Like typically, if we don't get the result we want the first time, we will just search again. And from your perspective, from business perspective, if you've got people in these locations, even if your main base of operation is London, you can still have listings in these areas so you are visible when someone in London searches for these places. And it's all free, which is great. Google will know your location through your IP address. And if you've got location tracking on your phone, everyone uses Android, hence Google. So it will know it through that. In terms of the content that gets pushed forward, it will try and prioritize content that is either local in that area or can be defined as in that language and use the tagging to say that. But you don't have to be, if you're a French business and you have great locations in Spain and you can show search engines you're an authority in Spain, it's in their interest to promote that. One, to people searching in France for those locations, and two, actually in Spain, if you've got Spanish language content. Cool. I hope that helps everyone. It's all free. Get started. Thank you very much.